about 60 minutes of marketing school. We're going to bring you some action, leave some questions. I'm checking all the channels right now, trying to manage this whole thing, but we're back in action after a 3-week hiatus. And Neil and I are excited to do this. So here we go. Recording and clap. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Sue.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we are going to talk about how to find lower cost engineers. So right now we live in a remote world right now. Most people are still working from home. And Neil and I wanted to talk about our experiences over the years working with engineers in the States, engineers all around the world, and we'll kind of give you our feedback, and then we'll maybe even potentially list a couple of places you can go to or people that we like working with. So Neil, do you want to kick it off?
So typically what I do is I look for countries that have a lower currency exchange rate than the place I live. So like if I would hire people who get paid in euros, it may be expensive. If I hire people who get paid in pounds, it would be more expensive. If I hire people who get paid in rupees, I can save money. The cost of living in India is way lower than where I am. So what I like to do is not just look for engineers, but I like to look for full-time engineers that are working for me. When you contract out with another company and they don't really work for you, it's not the same effect versus them being part of your team versus just being a quote unquote contractor, even if they're not paid as an employee. So what I do is funny enough, I still look for companies, but I look for companies that can hire full-time people on my behalf. Like a good example of this is Net Solutions in India. Net Solutions, what they'll do is you tell them what kind of engineers that you want. They'll go and find them for you, and then they'll be your engineers, and they only work on your project and no one else's. But they're pretty much working for you. They interact with your team. They're in your Slack. But that's my model. I know other people use like the Upworks and stuff like that. It's hit or miss. I found the best luck just hiring people in these other countries through firms who are on the ground, who can vet them, interview them in person, etc., to help make sure that you're getting the best candidates.
Yeah, so I too have used Net Solutions. They're great. And what Neil's talking about is really the process that you're paying for. So they've interviewed these people, they've ran them through the tests, right? And they've also worked with them as well. So a lot of that stuff you can kind of skip over. I think historically, and I'm speaking for Neil as well, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we have hired low cost developers, generally Paul Graham from Y Combinator says, look, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And so oftentimes, we've paid a really low cost, but we end up losing a lot in terms of the time we wasted and the stress that it causes, right? And then also the technical debt that builds up. You have to take a lot of these things into account. So if you pay too low of a price, you're going to face the consequences later. So Net Solutions is great because they've got a well buttoned up process. Another company out there is called Support Shepherd, and they will actually go out there and find, I believe, 3 developers for you, and they'll vet them through their process again. So you end up saving a lot of the time, and you get to pay a lower cost because these would be, let's say, developers in the Philippines, for example, but they're higher quality. I think that's the one thing that you want to figure out, like how do you get high quality, and then figure out the talent arbitrage costs there. And there's also a lot of great people, not just we're talking about, the Asian countries, but looking at, Argentina, for example, or even looking at Mexico.
Yeah, you can look wherever you want. The overall thing, though, that I'll recommend is when you're using this process that Eric and I are mentioning, remember the first engineer you get, no matter how much you pay them, they may not be the great fit. They may not produce the results you're looking for. Sometimes you have to go through a few of them to get the right one, and just be okay with that. And as long as you do that, and in the long run, you should be fine.
Yep. The final thing I'll add is one website I've gone to in the past is CodePen. That's CodePen.io. And then I would just go to the job board there and I would post my job. And then I'll be very specific about what I'm looking for. But when you're looking to hire anybody, in general, what I like to do is I like to put together a scorecard. So you could just Google WHO scorecard template. So that's WHO scorecard template. And you should define what you're looking for. So what are the outcomes that you're looking for? And then what are the competencies that you're looking for? And then you can kind of vet them that way. When I put up a job post, what I will then say is, hey, tell me 3 things you would change about my website. What would you do? And also I put in if I'm putting up a job post, I'll say, put in coding is cool in your first email subject line. 92 to 95% of people will not do that, which means they don't know how to follow directions. So that makes your life a lot easier if you're going to put up job posts. So Neil, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, go to marketingschool.io/live if you are looking to figure out more ways to grow your business, whether it's through marketing, engineering, growth hacking, whatever it may be. Go there, apply, and let's go from there.
Ready? Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Sue.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we are going to talk about how to get clients in today's environment. So when Neil and I are talking about clients in this context, we could mean clients for your agency. We could mean clients for your just any type of services business in general, right? So it could be real estate clients as well. So we do know that today's environment is, tougher. It's different dependent on your industry as well. So for some industries, maybe if you're in hospitality, it might be a little tougher. But we still want to talk about overall, how we think what we think is effective in terms of getting clients today.
I still use the same approach, and I know we've talked about this in past episodes, in which I just go out there, and you can either go to like virtual networking events, but the biggest and the easiest way that I've been getting customers still is I go look for recently funded companies in my space, figure out how I can help them. I email them all the things I would do. I lay it all out in such a way, step-by-step way, where they can just do it without me. But a portion of them just end up hiring you. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but I've just found that to work so well over the years. So I continually just do that.
Yep. And another thing that's similar to what Neil is saying is, yes, you can definitely use Crunchbase, see what's going on there. But there is a service that one of my buddies recommended, predictleads.com, and they will actually show you when this is happening actively. Let's say a new CMO joins a company or whatever. And I'm not sure how much it is exactly, but you can check that out. But whatever it is, whatever gives you an edge, you want to take a look at it, right? So I've even looked at the recent, people have brought to my attention the recent, it's not recent, but LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's gotten better and better over the years. So you can actually see when people are adjusting as well. So using these tools will give you the insight that you need to reach out and then just go out there and add value. Like Neil and I have mentioned countless times in the past, the people that come up to us with solutions and offer us to work for free and then say they want to negotiate a kind of a more ongoing arrangement afterwards, every single time someone that's done that and done that well, we've ended up doing something with them, whether it's hiring them part-time or hiring them full-time or referring them to somewhere else. And that's how you get it if you're starting from ground zero.
Dude, so what's so funny is so many of my best people, and I know with you too, have come from people just doing a free test run from a month or two. Now, if you're going to use that strategy that Eric and I are talking about here, you can't just go to people and be like, you got so many things wrong, you need to fix it. You need to actually show them how you're going to fix it, be very proactive, and not have to hit them up and ask them questions here and there. You have to be self-sufficient, in other words, and be able to figure things out on your own. Because if you can do that and you can show them results, that's what people like. They don't want they don't want more employees that they have to handhold and teach and train. They want people who are self-sufficient, who level up their team and provide more value than what they're currently getting right now.
Yep. And the other thing is, what you can do is make Loom videos. So that's loom.com. And they're actually doing very well as a company right now. But you can basically just make quick videos for people too, just saying, hey, look, I spotted these things. They get a sense of your personality in the video, and you're doing a screen share, your face is showing. And so they'll get a sense of whether they want to get to know you more or not, or if they think you're full of it. And here's the beauty of it. If they think you're full of it, well, that's an opportunity for you to improve. You can constantly iterate. So if I'm coming out of college right now, I might not be good on video. I might not be polished with the way I'm talking, but I'm just going to keep getting more and more reps, and I'm going to get better over time. Neil was never good at speaking when he first started. I was never good at speaking when I first started. We've gotten better. We're not like, world-class number one in the world, but that's what it takes. So if you want to find clients that way, it should work well. And then, like Neil mentioned, there's a lot of virtual events going on right now, which are tied in with there's virtual networking. So if you look at, so just to use our event as an example, the Growth Accelerator, well, we have virtual networking. It's like RPG, and where, Neil might go stand somewhere and everyone crowds around him, and then I might go stand somewhere, but we have different groups. But we're building that relationship. And then more than anything, I think some people might say, oh, you should go look at other agencies and partner up with them. It's like, no, I've tried that in the past. You try doing that, it's going to take you forever to set up the partnership, and then your expectations are not going to be met, because you're going to expect an influx of leads coming in. Generally, it does not work out that way. So that's what you want to do.
No, you need the results right now. And to go get the results right now, you can't rely on someone else selling for you. You got to go sell yourself.
Yep. So, I mean, Aaron Ross from Predictable Revenue says in this case, you're sniping your leads, right? You're targeting who you want, you're sniping. And what I would say is figure out how much revenue you need to drive and how many clients that is per month, and then figure out how much outreach that is for you per day, because that's the one thing you can control, which is your outreach every day. And then now the technology is so much better. I remember when I was first starting out, I was using data.com, and I was trying to use a free version because I was too cheap. And I would make these like super long 20-minute videos, and I'd have to download them afterwards. Now you can just make a loom, and then you can use a tool like hunter.io to find the contact information or predict leads or whatever, or Crunchbase, whatever you want to use. And you should be able to make it happen. I think if you're listening to this and you spend enough time on it, I don't see any way you can't make it happen. Neil, do you want to add anything else?
Make sure you go to marketingschool.io/live. If you're looking to grow your business, even your agency, trying to figure out how to get more customers, go there, apply, and we'll be in touch.
All right. That's it. See you tomorrow. Next one. Ready? Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Sue.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we're going to be talking about the number one marketing skill that will get you hired in 2021. And it's not SEO or PPC. So what is it, Neil?
The number one skill that'll get you hired in 2021 is going to be creativity. And you're probably wondering, how the heck is this a marketing skill? Well, as Andrew Chen once said, our marketing channels eventually go to shit. In other words, all the channels out there, they're going to cause people to compete, get crowded with you. And when you end up doing things like that, they just get expensive and they're hard to produce ROI from. But it doesn't mean that you can't do well as a marketer. You just need to be creative. And Eric and I have talked about this. When people are zigging, you need a zag. You need to get creative and do some of the opposite stuff or test new, unique stuff. For example, when Russell Brunson wanted to grow his podcast, he was giving away free MP3 players, installing his podcast on there to really help boost his numbers. That's an example of getting super creative. And the list goes on and on. Like, one thing that I'm trying to do right now is we're working on our commercial script. So we're going to start running television ads throughout the United States, and we're going to scale it up and just really go hard and hit really hard on branding. People are going to be like, Neil, why would you run television ads? You're a digital marketing agency. Everyone in your space talks about how digital is better than television. Sure, but television does a better chance at branding than digital does. So like, just doing new creative things when my competition is not willing to, that's how you win in the long run.
Yep. And one thing we looked at in the past is if you open up the Facebook ad library, you can see that Russell Brunson, who Neil just mentioned, he runs a ton of new creatives. He's creating new stuff all the time. It's new ad creative and it's new offers, and they're constantly rotating because there's banner blindness and there's also offer blindness as well. People don't want to keep seeing the same thing over and over. So the thing is too, if you look at response rates in terms of your engagement rates, your conversion rates and all that, it all starts to decline once you have something working. So you have to immediately start to work on the next one. And so I remember for our consulting school program, where we show agencies how to get more clients, basically, the one thing we struggled with was creative. Everything was subpar. The click-through rates were all under 1% for the longest time. Once we started thinking about, okay, how do we make better creative? The team got together, and then now our click-through rate's over 2%, right? So, one of the things we look at the top of the funnel metric is, what is our click-through rate first? And then that kind of funnels down to everything else, your conversion, your CPA numbers, and things like that. So creative is by far the number one thing. And it's hard to find people that are creative right now. It's, for whatever reason, if you work in tech, usually if you work in demand generation, they're hiring you to just run paid ads, right? And then you might have someone that does some email stuff, but there aren't people that are really well-rounded to understand copywriting, psychology, and which all ties in with creativity as well, right? So at the end of the day, you have to practice the stuff. We've talked about a lot of books that we recommend around copywriting, around SEO, things like that. But you got to become more well-rounded.
And when you're becoming well-rounded and creative, keep in mind that just knowing ideas to tasks and knowing solutions isn't enough. You got to be able to execute on them, because if you can't execute and implement them without very little help, you're not going to do well. And like the people who are creative and can move fast are the ones who tend to do extremely well in the marketing world.
Yeah, and the final thing I'll add that's been critical for us around that program that I was talking about is we do a daily stand-up every single day, and we talk about creatives, and we talk about iterating very quickly, because you can't just wait. If you start waiting a week every time you're spending a good chunk of money, well, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to iterate quickly enough, and that's going to cause your performance to fall apart. So that's just a side thing that you might want to consider if you are looking to scale a campaign. So that is it for today. If you are interested in our virtual event and our live event as well, just go to marketingschool.io/live. That's LIVE. And we will see you tomorrow. All right, one more then questions.
Let's do it.
David had a quick question for you. Do you mean CTV or OTT at what CPM?
I think he's talking about cable TV or online TV. I don't know what OTT is. I
think OTT would be like Roku and things like that.
So I'm doing cable TV, like CNBC, Bloomberg, channels like that. They're charging under $5 CPMs.
Wow.
And I'm doing it during prime time. But you got to spend a minimum amount. That's the crappy part.
Ready? Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Sue.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we are going to be talking about how to write perfect cold emails that don't get ignored. Didn't you just get a cold email earlier, Neil?
I did. Someone was trying to tell me how it was something about helping the United States. I live in the United States, for anyone listening. And I was like, okay, let me open it up. And the guy's like, hey, I'm Dan. I live in the United States. We need your help. And pretty much, long story short, he tried to get me to link to one of his websites. I didn't respond to Dan. I was like, this isn't really helping the United States. This is more so helping you. But I opened it up because it was just so creative. The other thing that I found with, creative subject lines is like short to the point does well. Like sometimes Brian Dean will send emails with just like subject line being like site audit or SEO template or something short like that. Those do well. Anything that's casual, lowercase, like your friends would send you, do well. Putting people's name in the subject line does well too. What have you tested?
Yeah, you know what? I was just looking at this email from Nathan Latka. He sends me this email, and it says 500K 2020 YTD. So that basically, I'm like, okay, he's probably talking about a business that maybe he thinks I'm interested in, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to click on it. So to your point, short. Sometimes it might be like we've talked about, just putting the person's first name with a question mark, but that's been used quite a bit now. So, a lot of things we talk about on this podcast will tend to get overused really quickly, and then you have to move on to the next thing. But let's say I'm doing a cold email and I'm trying to get a client. I might say, 3 issues with your website, right? It's short, it's to the point, and it's something that that they care about. So if I'm the CEO of the company, you reach out to me, you tell me there's a problem with my website, I'm gonna be, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I'm at the very least, I'm probably, if I'm a responsible CEO, I'm gonna forward that to whoever's responsible on the team. And that's actually, I think, long time ago, actually, here's a better example. Neil and I hit up Zynga when they're thinking about getting into poker. And I think the email I sent was like, we've grown poker websites before, right? And then we ended up getting on a call with like 4 or 5 of their executives. Unfortunately, they ended up scrapping the program, but it just shows, and this is at the time, Neil and I I think I was like 26, Neil was 27. So still sending out that cold email, you got to think about what people care about and go from there. Neil, you can even talk about the cold email that you sent to someone that kind of got into like a issue. We'll just call it that way.
Yeah, so there was a billionaire who got into a issue, bad press, and I literally sent him a cold email on like, you're gonna run into more trouble unless you do this. Like it was something generic like that in the subject line, and then I broke down how my company can help him with PR. He didn't end up hiring me, but I got him to respond to the email, and he was prying, but I quickly got from it that he didn't want to spend any money, so I kind of stopped messaging him back. Um, but in general, short, catchy subject lines do well, and anything that is very relevant to the time or something that they're facing or problems that they're having do extremely well. And you don't necessarily need to know the person. Like if I'm sending a cold email, even in, like to 50 or 100 people in a space, and I know I'm in SEO and I'm trying to get them for SEO related stuff, I know people are always want more traffic. Like I can end up saying like, try this hack. Your traffic will just go through the roof. And just like something that simple. And then a lot of people will end up opening it, and then you can have a conversation and get responses.
Yeah, the final thing I'll add from my side is that the body of your email, just you only need to personalize 10 to 20% of it, and then it's personalized. So you don't need to go that far, but the personalization goes a long way, because anybody, and I promise you, anybody that has a decent brain will know when it's just a template. And so you got to figure out how you can make it look legit. And by the way, you want to make sure your formatting is right too, because if your formatting looks off, that instantly gets discounted, right? So just because let's use the Neil cold email example from earlier. Sure, you got a great subject line, but the body's got to get them too. You can't bait and switch there. So you kind of have to close the loop. Just getting them to open it is not enough, but getting them to finish off and actually respond to you, whether it's positive or negative, that closes the loop.
If you need help growing your business, make sure you check out marketingschool.io/live. So that's it. We look forward to helping you grow. Just make sure you go there, apply, and whether you have issues with cold emails or any marketing issues, we're here to help.
All right, questions. I got questions from, let's see. Okay. What advice would you have to drive traffic to small business websites when they're working with limited budgets and want to focus on organic traffic? Creating content seems challenging when they are plumbers or HVAC techs. Um, I think Reginald, I'm not pronouncing it right, but the beauty of long tail traffic when it comes to SEO or long tail keywords is that you can target HVAC or plumber type keywords and target your local area, and you're probably going to rank well for it. So you don't need to try to capture all the traffic in the world. Just go narrow.
Yeah, Eric pretty much got it right. What's another one? David
I got
Alexander. Split testing subject lines can play an important role with larger lists. That's true. That's actually more of a comment than a question,
statement.
but yeah,
Yeah.
statement, which is spot on. Split testing is really smart. If you don't split test, you're not going to maximize your results.
Matthew, I hope Eric and you are both well. I'm loving the podcast. Thank you for that. Anthony says social media and YouTube ads today are saturated with goofy videos that were made popular with Dollar Shave Club. So what would be the quote unquote zag today? I think what's the opposite of goofy, right? So Charlie Munger always says to invert. So instead of thinking what you need to be successful, what do you need? What's the opposite of that, right? So in some cases, if you want to avoid the goofy video, well, then what do you need to avoid exactly? Or what do you want to do? That's opposite. So what do you think that would be, Neil?
It would be probably more serious, factual based videos that can pitch people using logic. But what's funny is I get what you're saying on the Dollar Shave Club type of videos. I don't think they're played out, and I actually don't think that many people are still doing them.
They get your attention. That's
They
the
do.
thing.
The majority of the people don't use those. Those are coming to your mind because those are the successful ones, but the majority of people from what we're seeing don't create videos like that. So I would actually create more content like that because it's not played out yet.
I would recommend. A friend of ours, Kong, he runs a company called Jump Cut, and he's pivoted his company to focus exclusively on making these types of videos, and he's extremely creative. All right, we'll answer one more question, then we're back into recording. Jay says, can you please mention the books again or ways to improve creativity? I think you're talking about copywriting. So the Boron Letters is really good. Breakthrough Advertising is very good. And I would just read this for fun. Creativity Inc. It's about Pixar. And other than that, Neil, you have any thoughts?
Sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention
You're
because I
fine.
was
You're
doing
fine.
the
Neil typically
podcast
doesn't read
list.
a lot anyway. So,
That's true.
uh,
The last book I read was Principles by Ray Dalio.
which is a great book. You should read that book too. All right, we're on to our next part. We'll cover your questions later. Webinar people, keep asking questions. Social has a ton of questions. Thank you. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one's good. This one's relevant because I got suspended. All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Sue.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we're going to talk about what you need to do if your Facebook ad account gets banned or suspended. So here's the funny thing. Our ad account, the one we were primarily using for consulting school, was suspended because they put us into the same category as the same bucket as the make money online people, the internet marketers that are selling scammy stuff. But I don't really, that's, even though we have creative ads, we don't really scam. So that's the funny thing.
And you don't sell make money.
No,
Well,
it's for people that have
you help
established
people.
businesses.
Yeah, you help people grow their business. You don't teach people how to make money from thin air. What'd you do?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of, I'm going to give the practical answer and I'm going to tell people what I did because I don't think it's applicable to everyone.
Well, first let's start off with what you did and then give the practical one because I'm curious on what you did.
So we, obviously, because I have Single Grain, which is an ad agency, we have an ad rep. Because we have an ad rep, we have an in there. So like we manage, let's call it, 7 figures plus in ad spend each month. And Neil definitely does as well, if not 8 figures plus. So the thing is, because you are tied to your Facebook ad manager, they have an incentive to help you. So if you are actively spending, then I would just go straight to your ad manager. But the problem with that is it doesn't apply for every single person. So we're fortunate enough to be able to do that. And they're actually moving us. They've actually created a new review process and we passed the first step. We're on to the second step now. And, they've actually started to crack down on a lot of accounts, which is why we got caught in the collateral damage, we'll just call it. But that's the first part. So in terms of what I think people can do to protect against this is whenever you're starting to run accounts, Sam Ovens actually has a video on YouTube about this, on how he has multiple Facebook ad accounts. So if something happens to one, he's got another one ready to go. And so when we got suspended, we had to make another account. And so we have another one running right now, which is actually performing better than the old one. So you want to diversify and make sure that you're covered, because if your business completely relies on Facebook ads and it gets suspended like that, you are not only putting yourself on the line, you're putting people's jobs, like people that work for you, on the line as well. So you don't want to take on that risk.
Yeah, what's funny is I usually use the tactic of hitting send on Facebook. This happened to me years and years ago. I think like 6 years ago, where I had issues. Haven't had any issues recently. But yeah, the easiest thing to do, and I know that most people don't like this, is to create a new account, new credit card, new address, new IPs, log in with different IPs. And like when you do that, you're usually good to go. It's a little bit of a pain, but it works.
Yeah, I mean, you really have no choice if you're going to play on these platforms. They get to decide when to ban you or whatever. So it's you're kind of at their mercy. So, hopefully this is helpful. And before we go, check out marketingschool.io/live. That's LIVE. You can just fill out the form. And if you're interested in our live event or our virtual event, you'll find out more information there. So that is it for today. And we will see you tomorrow. All right. Ready?
I'm ready.
Well, that's a nice one. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Sue.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we are going to talk about if TV ads are still relevant. So Neil, this is relevant because you are about to start running TV ads. So do you want to talk about this a little bit and talk about why you're doing it, just in case, there's people that are doubting the efficacy?
Sure. So I'm running TV ads to try to take my business to the next level. I know people say TV ads don't produce as high of a ROI as Google or Facebook. I get it. Google and Facebook are much bigger companies, but just think of it this way. Other than those car commercials you see for, Ford, Cerritos, or whatever city you live in, people who run TV ads, when you see these companies, what do you think about them? You usually think that they're big, massive corporations, right? So the overall concept is, why not run TV ads, do it for a year or two, blitz, get tons of branding. I don't know what ROI it's going to provide. but at least it puts us in a better spot to compete with our competition. Plus, none of them are really doing it. So we look at TV ads as another way to stand out. And then from there, I was like telling my co-founder, I was like, why not try ads during the PGA Golf Tour, Formula One, and all like these crazy things?
Rich things.
Yeah, because it's like
Yeah,
I'm
rich
looking for
shows.
big companies who can spend a lot of money, sports like tennis, where a lot of rich people go to, or the NBA playoffs, or whatever it may be. But yeah, just in general, I was like, if you want to be big, you got to be branded, and not everything is a direct ROI. Branding is priceless, because if your brand gets out there and people know about it, in the long run, I just believe you'll do really well.
I think the caveat here for a lot of people listening to this, if you're just starting out right now, you don't need to worry too much about branding. But at a certain level, you start to worry about, okay, what is my overall reach? How many impressions am I getting? Because that's what starts to matter more and more, which is why the Coca-Colas of the world are spending so much on branding. Why are companies like Oreo spending money on Super Bowl ads, right? Because they want that, they want the recall, they want the brand recall there. So, the other thing is, when you're spending on, I know Hulu has a self-service now type of deal, and I think it's combined with Disney. And so you can even go run ads on there, or you can go to like these, you can go to like run ads on Roku as well. I think they make a good chunk of, or a decent chunk of revenue off of TV ads. Or, if you're thinking about trying to hit, a richer demographic, like what Neil's doing, then you think about, okay, what are rich people typically watching? And then you hit up those areas, right? And who knows what's going to happen? Neil doesn't know what's going to happen, but the key thing here is that he's basically zagging where everyone else is zigging. Everyone's doing the online thing right now, but TV ads might actually be cheaper right now. Is that true or false, Neil?
You end up paying around $5 CPMs.
Got it.
Some are more, some are less, but you can say around $5 CPMs.
And I'm
Because
assuming these are six-figure contracts that you're committing.
sadly, yes.
Yep. So yeah,
The test is expensive. That's a real issue with TV. You can't do a test for $100, $200 like you can with digital. And I genuinely believe it's going to be harder to see the results in the ROI.
I would just say, look, this is probably a more advanced strategy you want to try out. If you're a bigger company right now, you're probably doing this already. But for a lot of people that are kind of starting out or in the middle, it might be a fit depending on what you're selling. So just think about the level that you're at, and think about what you're trying to accomplish, and think about where your people are hanging out. Same thing. It's marketing 101. So that is it for today. Go to marketingschool.io/bootcamp if you're interested in a cohort. We're starting our cohort soon. I've talked about it a little bit, but I'm actually getting around to teaching the first cohort of people that want to go from 0 to 1 in terms of marketing. And then we also want to get you job ready as well. So marketingschool.io/bootcamp, and we will see you inside. Is it question time? I think it's question time.
Yeah.
Over the top is like the Roku stuff, Apple TV. The
I
little.
think it's over the top or no, over the top. You're right.
Yeah. All right. So we'll cover some questions. Mike says, hey, Neil and Eric, I really enjoyed that Roland Fraser talk on M&A. I was wondering if there's a PDF of his presentation anywhere. We do not have a PDF, but tell you what, you should go fill out an application for the Growth Accelerator, marketingschool.io/live, LIVE. How often do we tend to run conversion optimization tests? In the very beginning of something, you're probably running, depends on how big your team is. If you can run one a week, depending on the size of your website, also that matters too, but that would be good, because the more experiments you can run initially, then you'll get to a point where you're hitting diminishing returns. So I can't give you a general answer here. Depends on how big your website is, depends on how big your team is. But Neil, I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Same. You really can't. It depends on a lot of factors that we don't know. If we know those factors, it's a little bit easier, but those factors are really important.
Yep. Addie asks, I have AdSense, but I don't want to place it on my website. What should I do with it? I think you should throw AdSense away. I think you should focus on promoting even affiliate products. You can go to ClickBank, or you can just find affiliates for whatever you're promoting. You'll make a better commission there. Or eventually, once the
Step
affiliate
up.
stuff works, you can make your own product.
Correct. Step up. You start with AdSense. You see what's working. You then do affiliate ads. Eventually, you create your own products or services. You can do things like drop shipping, white label someone else's services. You see that working. Then you create your own services, bear more costs because you know that the profit in the long run will be higher.
Cool. All right. One more question before we continue. Matt asks, I've recently completed my apprenticeship. Congratulations. He's moving into an e-commerce business with little experience on e-commerce. What main strategies and tactics would you recommend for Shopify? So I would take the for Shopify out and just look at whatever e-commerce tactics or strategies that we talk about on this podcast. You can go to marketing school on the IO just to search for it. But in general, I would say, I remember when I first started working for someone in e-commerce, I didn't really understand e-commerce, but I understood the right tactics. And then I would just follow. There's a lot of e-commerce podcasts out there. I would look at what tactics people are using. And then I would focus on one channel first. What's the one channel that's working really well for them, and optimize the hell out of that. Don't try to do too much, because in the beginning, I tried to do SEO, email, PPC. I tried to do everything. And that ended up meaning that my focus was split. So I'd say just focus on one, make it work really well, and prove your value.
And then once it works, then expand into more, but do one at a time.
Cool. All right. David, we'll come back to your question after we do the final, 4?
Yeah, let's do the final 4.
All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Su.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we're going to talk about how to spot nightmare clients before they ever waste your time. So what do we mean by nightmare clients, Neil? I'm curious to get your thoughts first.
The clients that, and there's different variations of it, but it could be clients that email you every single day, call you every single day, tell you how to do your own job every single day, clients who keep complaining every day, clients who have unrealistic expectations that expect you to provide the world within a day. Like, these are all examples of clients that are nightmares. But there's one consistent thing that we've seen when it comes to clients that are nightmares, and I'm guessing you've seen this as well, Eric. It comes down to expectation setting. If you set the right expectations from day one and someone's okay with it, and you set the boundaries, you're good to go. If you try to set them and someone's not okay with it, chances are they're not going to be a good fit as a client. But if they are okay with it and they are willing to deal with everything, you should be fine.
Yep. So what I like to call it is, I've heard this concept before. It's called energy vampires, right? So you have people that give you energy and energy vampires. So if you're interacting with someone and you feel like they're sucking away your energy, that's probably someone you don't want to work with, right? And to Neil's point, yes, absolutely. Expectation setting is probably one of the most important things just in general, because you're basically figuring out how aligned you are with that person. If you can't align with their expectations, you shouldn't work with them, because you can't help them. So one of the things that's really good in the very beginning, if you have leads coming in, well, I like using an application, or I like using a lead form to qualify it. And you can tell if they're half-assing the lead form and they're just giving one-word responses and they're kind of being an asshole in how they write about things, you'll know that you don't want to work with them. And so it's also figuring out like who's an ideal client for you. So you put together an ideal client profile. Could be revenue sizes, could be the types of industries that you want to work with. Who do you do well with, right? So you got to take a step back. Let's say you've been in business for a year. Take a step back and think about who pays you the most, who stays with you the most, and who do you like dealing with the most. For us specifically, we like working with a lot of SaaS companies or e-commerce companies. That's just kind of our bread and butter. And I know for Neil, it's a little different as well. So you set who you want to work with, your expectations, and then they fill out a form. You see if it matches. You get on a call with them, see if you ask them questions, see if there's alignment there, and then you can decide if you want to proceed or not.
Yeah. So, and if you end up doing that, you'll still every once in a while get nightmare clients. And I kid you not, whether you like it or not, if you need the revenue, no matter what, keep them, right? Especially early on. But if you have enough revenue and you can cut your expenses, even if you want that revenue, what I recommend is just canning them. Like, seriously, can them, try to make it right, do it on terms that are very peaceful, and just can them, because it's poison. It just will slow you down and cause you to do worse work for the other people that are paying you that deserve amazing quality work as well.
I think the really important thing too is when you're catting them, make it seem like it's your fault. It's me, it's not you, right? So then you blame it on yourself. And by the way, it's free to blame yourself. It's free to apologize. So you just do it, right? Because these nightmare clients probably, they might have an ego. They might explode and start doing all this crazy stuff. You don't want that to happen, right? The worst could be, if they start doing start threatening you with a lawsuit, or they start hitting you with negative reviews and things like that. You just don't want to deal with that. But to Neil's point, when you're working with nightmare clients, especially if it's your team that's working with them, they become demotivated when they come into work because they have to think about the stress of working with this person, right? Or this client. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you take care of your team, because it's not worth the trouble, because that will cause collateral damage to your other clients who you love, and whoever's servicing that account, their A game might drop to like a B- game, and then you get B- work across the board, and then you start losing other clients because they start getting pissed, right? So you got to make sure, you got to think about the consequences there. Neil?
It's big, and if you don't really think about the consequences, it just can hurt you so much in the long run. Like, just be very, very careful on having the right type of clients. And like, I can't emphasize that enough, because there's so many people just go after and chase the revenue.
Yeah. I think the final thing that we'll both add is Neil and I, we haven't serviced client accounts for years. Sometimes we might hop in or so. So would you want to add something?
No, I'm like, yeah, that's spot on. You and I haven't really serviced clients ourselves for years, but we know what it's like because we see it all day long within our organizations.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once you're working on the business or even above the business, you're starting to think about, okay, is my team happy? And if my team's happy, then they're going to be able to do good work. So anyway, that is it for today. Go to marketingschool.io/live, LIVE, to learn about our live event, which is still on hold right now, and then our virtual event as well. You'll see a cool video there too on what the event is all about. So that is it for today, and we will see you tomorrow. Man, David's really bringing it with the TV stuff for you in chat.
I like it. The problem with the TV stuff, I looked it up. Maybe I'm wrong, David, but I'm trying to advertise specifically on like CNBC, Bloomberg, channels like that during prime time, during when the stock market is going.
There you go. Ready? Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Sue.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we're going to talk about our new number one Instagram strategy for growing brand new accounts. So what do you got, Neil? I'm sure we have different number ones.
My number one is going live with other people on Instagram. Even if you have no followers, I found that if you just hit up enough people and you interview them, even on your platform, like me having a podcast and interviewing you, Eric, if I'm starting off, what I found by that is a lot of people will accept, you go live, they join your live, it notifies their followers, and your follower count goes up. It's the quickest and easiest way to get more followers from what I'm seeing right now. It's working like money. Just take Eric's leveling up podcasts and interview people just like that, but straight up do it on your phone on live. Funny enough, I'm holding up my phone, but that doesn't really do anything because most people are probably listening to this over audio.
Yep. And so there is a tool for that called yellowduck.tv. It doesn't work that well, but it's the only kind of being able to stream to Instagram from your computer type of deal. And then right now we're streaming using restream.io. So it is worth a look. I mean, if you're able to do that, I don't know if they have the kind of the two boxes type of thing where you're doing it with someone else. But that's certainly very viable. I think another thing you can do, I wouldn't call this number one. I think the live is number one, but I'll call it number two is using guest posts. So we'll use Chris Do as an example. So Chris Do on his Instagram, he has like 200,000 or 300,000 followers, and a lot of people have kind of followed suit because he's got a big following in the design and dev community. And so when we put up a guest post on his Instagram, well, guess what? Each time we put one up, it got us like 600 to 1,000 followers or so, which is decent, right? But if you do a live with someone else that's got millions of followers, you're probably going to get a lot more from that. So that's just something to keep in mind. And what I would say too is if you're looking to grow, and maybe you don't want to do the whole reaching out to people, maybe you're too shy or something like that. What I would say is, when it comes to growing your Instagram account, it can take a long time. If you're going to do it the hand-to-hand combat way, you're actually living in the comments. You're living in the DMs as well. And you're just constantly engaging with people. Because I'll give you a separate example. I had Anthony Pompliano on my podcast yesterday, Leveling Up. And his Twitter, he grew it from scratch, 0 to I think 300,000 or 400,000 followers right now. And I was like, so how'd you do it? He didn't have a hack for me. He just said straight up, he was just writing interesting content, commenting, DMing people all over the place. And just over time, he just stayed consistent and it kind of compounded that way. So that's how you do it. Because when you're commenting, you're DMing people, you're getting more feedback and you're getting more insight as to what's interesting. And then you're posting that content, because content is still what matters when it comes to Instagram. Neil?
I think that's it. Try those 2 tactics. We don't want to give you tons of them. We know both these work. If you need more help growing your social profiles, check out marketingschool.io/live.
Bunny, do we think ad agencies are a $1 billion industry? Absolutely. There's a couple of holding companies that do over $1 billion or do billions a year in revenue. So definitely.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few that are worth over 10 billion.
There you go. All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Su.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we're going to talk about marketing trends that we are excited about for Q4. So this is a little bit of a new experiment. So tweet at me, Eric OSIU, if you think this is cool, because Neil and I don't get a lot of time to talk about what we're actually excited about, right? So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the business world and in the marketing world. So, we'll see how this goes. This might be a little longer than usual, but I'll start it off first. I mean, Neil, yesterday, LinkedIn just launched stories. And I'm super excited about that because I just post stories to Instagram all the time. I take screenshots of stuff, throw it up there. And what I'm finding now is that I'm seeing all these people that are relevant. I'm seeing SEO manager over here, content lead over here. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to funnel these people, have them talk to the ClickFlow team, and then we can do something there, right? But it's people are here to do business on LinkedIn. So I constantly see like who's relevant to talk to, who do I want to keep in touch with, right? Because there's a little message button over there. But on Instagram, not so much. I'm not looking to do business on Instagram. So I think LinkedIn, or Microsoft rather, is super smart for doing this. And I'm glad that they finally brought it up. Have you tried it yet?
I haven't tried it. We have it on our list to try in the next month or so. We're slow on some of that kind of stuff, but we're going to try that out. Another trend that we're seeing is voice search. Everyone knows that half the searches, at least in the United States now, are through voice search, according to ComScore. But specifically when I say voice search, I'm talking about voice commerce. Did you know over 60% of people in the United States who have these smart speaker type of devices have made a purchase through voice search, according to TechCrunch? According to
have you done that before though?
I have many times.
What did you buy?
We buy like bottled water, toilet paper, tissues, household items.
Man, I've never done that before. That's crazy.
It works really well with Alexa. And according to OCNC, their company that does research, they're saying by 2020, $40 billion is going to be spent on voice search. That's a ridiculous amount. I know that's tiny in the grand scheme of commerce, but that number is going to blow up and explode.
Yeah. Like the other thing too, I'm just looking at, this is more of a business trend, but it kind of is a marketing trend too. But there's a Casey Newton, I believe is his name. He's one of the lead editors of The Verge. He just left to start his own Substack. So everyone's starting Substacks right now, which is basically just you're starting an email newsletter. So when I spoke to Anthony Pompliano yesterday, I think he's got about 5,000 subscribers, paying subscribers. So paying $10 a month, that's 50 grand a month from his newsletter, which is not bad. That's 600 grand a year. And so whether it's paid newsletters or even paid podcast subscriptions, I think that's going to become more and more of a trend because people are legit leaving their full-time jobs as writers and they're just going off on their own. You got Ben Thompson that's doing that. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you know anyone that's doing it really well?
I don't know anyone that's doing it well, but I know it makes money. Look at Agora.
Yeah. How much do they do in revenue?
Agora is $1 billion+ company in revenue.
There you go.
Somewhere around
there. There you go. What else you got?
The next trend that I have that, like my microphone's falling. The next trend that I have that we're seeing come up in the upcoming years is, look, when you think about marketing, we all get emails. A lot of us ignore emails, but there's a new trend that we're seeing in emails, right? Even when we ignore emails, it still generates so much money. We all send out so many emails. There's a company called Sam Email that lets you make purchases within your emails. So imagine me sending you an email regarding, I don't know, a t-shirt. You can pick the size and actually click checkout and buy within the email and never have to go to the website. Or right now they specialize in airlines. You can actually adjust your seat and adjust your ticket and all that kind of stuff within the email. And you see like the seat map and you can click and upgrade and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like, I mean, when we think about this at the end of the day, I was buying stuff using my phone as I was traveling. It's just when there's Apple Pay, I almost immediately select that because the friction, there's a lot less friction. The experience is a lot better. So whatever way you can make it easier for people to get things done, that's going to do well. And then, your total addressable market for that is huge, right? Because you're just trying to solve problems for a wide swath of people. You're not even just solving for niche problems anymore. And I think the final thing I'll end with right now is, well, I mean, to me, I've just kind of been observing in the investing world right now. If you go read Bessemer memos, just type in BVP memos. What's fascinating to me is how this firm decided to invest in Shopify in the very beginning, and you just see a lot of interesting trends around that, and how off they were in terms of how big they thought the market size was. So this is not exactly I guess the trend here is that people are writing a lot more, and then what I'm gaining a lot from these memos. So I guess my only thing that I'm trying to point you in the direction of is, go check out these BVP memos. Go check out Morning Brew. Go check out The Hustle. The Hustle has trends as well, where they talk about trends. And I think you'll learn a lot because there's a lot of good information being put out right now. Neil?
Cool. Well, that's pretty much it. If you're looking for more exciting trends and how to use these trends to grow your business, check out marketingschool.io/live.
All right. And then we're on the last one. Here we go.
Is it /live?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, wait, that URL sounds off.
You're right. Anyway, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Marketing School. I'm Eric Sue.
And I'm Neil Patel.
And today we're going to talk about how to gather priceless customer research for free.
So I can break down my number one strategy for gathering customer research. I'll give a few and then you can go. So the first is, of course, you can do surveys.
First, what do we mean by that?
So when we're talking about customer research, we're talking about what do customers want in the space, how to grow, how to use that data, and just do better. And the best way that I've gathered customer research, we can actually go back and forth. The best way I've gathered customer research is to just go Google and search for podcast interviews or blog posts by the companies. And a lot of them publish their learnings, their growth, what didn't work, what did work. And they're all basing it on their customers. If they're growing, that means they're doing a better job understanding their customers. If they're not, they're doing a shittier job, typically. And once they end up breaking down why they made these changes, what they learned from their customers, you can go and take that data and see if you can make similar changes. So not are you getting the customer research, but you're also given, when you do this, tactics on how you can use it to grow and implement them.
Yeah, I think so. Tactically around that, what you can do is just search for, I would look for the CEO's name and just type in their name, interview, right? And then you'll find all the information, all the podcasts that are in there. And oftentimes a lot of these interviews will have the transcripts. So what you might be able to do is look at the transcripts, pull the key takeaways there, or even have an assistant pull the key takeaways for you to Cliff Notes, and then double down on whatever are the signals that this person's continually giving. Which, what I mean by that is, if over the span of 10 interviews, someone is saying the same thing every single time, then you probably want to look into that more and do more research on that. And then when you do more research on that, then there might be specific tactics that you want to be trying for yourself, and you can actually double down on those tactics, right? So what you're looking for is, you're looking for signal, get on the pod, listen to a couple podcasts, look for whatever you think is relevant, and then do more research on it, and then execute a few tests on it. And then you will be able to take that customer information or the customer research even further. So another thing I like to do when it comes to customer research is just, simply, if you have an email list, just send out a survey. You can use Typeform, you can use Google Forms for that. But
Hotjar on your site, even if you don't have a list, you can or Qualaroo on your website, even if you don't have a list.
Is Qualaroo still around?
Uh-huh.
Huh. Wow, it's the thing that keeps on going, I guess.
Keeps
But
on
yes,
selling. New
you
owners
can
always
you can
constantly.
ask questions, you can ask for feedback. What's cool too is if someone opts into your email list, maybe on the thank you page, you ask them to fill something out, or you send out an email saying, "Hey, could I get 2 minutes of your time?" And usually that works out well. And then you just ask, just don't ask leading questions, ask good questions, right? So, what is a problem that you're facing right now? What's the number one marketing problem you're facing? Instead of saying, "Would you use our SEO tool?" Right? You want to be able to collect this qualitative data, and then that will guide your decisions.
Yeah. Another thing that I just like doing is I like gathering groups of people and tracking how they're engaging, interacting, etc. What I mean by this is like, have you ever, what's that? I forgot what that company's called. Not user flow, user testing. You
Mm-hmm.
get what I mean? User testing, you can end up
Yeah.
monitoring a ton of people. You can do something similar with Crazy Egg, Hotjar. I don't know if VWO has that feature. Maybe Optimizely does too, where you can just track user sessions, see what they're doing, how they're engaging, how they're interacting. That gives you a lot of data on what users are doing and where they're getting stuck. Because most of these tools, what they'll do is they'll show you where people are clicking a lot, or where they're getting stuck, or where they're not able to complete the checkout, or whatever it may be. So you can gather a lot of data and be like, oh, these are the areas I need to fix.
Yep. So those are all great tools. I think these are all good areas to start. I know Hotjar has I think they have a freemium version. Crazy Egg, is it a trial or a freemium?
Trial.
Yeah. So look, all these tools are great. You can check it out. These are just, we don't want to overload you, but these are just a couple things that you can do. To me personally, I love sending the surveys, but you can only get so many people to fill it out. And you can only probably do it once a quarter or so. So anyway, that is it for today. Go to marketingschool.io/live. That's LIVE to learn about the virtual event, and then our live events when those come back. There's a cool video on it. It'll explain what it's all about. And that is it for today, and we'll see you tomorrow. All right, some questions. Is Emma around you? Is that why you're smiling?
No, I'm smiling because I can eat soon.
Oh, wow. All right, me too. So
I'm like, we're
Malik
both
Lee,
getting, but let's do questions first.
Malik, can you talk about your experience with SMS text community platforms so far? Numbers, analytics, etc. Honestly, the community platform that we've been running, we have like 150 people that have opted in. Those people are very engaged. I will say, I could just pull up the stats right now. Let's just take a look. I think about the open rates about 95% or so, and people are very responsive. And people are thrilled when we actually respond to them. I can't really see any reporting right now, but that's generally what it looks like. So, obviously, if we have someone's information, their phone number, it's a lot more intimate. And, we think it's cool, but it's not like a huge needle mover for us. We'll just say that.
What the heck is
Um,
geofencing?
huh?
Geofencing is?
Geofencing. What do you mean? Geofencing is just like you're targeting an area. So if I'm targeting downtown LA with my ads, that's geofencing.
Geo-targeting.
Yeah.
David Robinson's thoughts on geofencing marketing. So, with geo-targeting, the thing to really look at is you got to continually test and just see what works, and you got to adapt your messaging to a lot of different people in a lot of different areas. But we see it work. We actually even go much more specific than that. Within a specific geography, you can do account-based marketing, and you can target specific companies, especially if you're in the B2B realm. But we see it do well even in geo-targeting or geofence marketing in specific areas like skincare, like how to survive a zombie apocalypse in Atlanta, or like how to survive an earthquake in Los Angeles or West Hollywood. Like when someone's visiting your website, you can modify the geo. And if you know that there's earthquakes in those areas, you can talk about what's survival, what's in the area, how they can adapt stuff. But customizing it based on someone's region actually works quite well.
Cool. Let's see. We got Jay is asking, is it possible to intern for Single Grain or Marketing School or Neil Patel Digital if I'm based out of the US? I just want to learn, which I'm sure I will, and have no other expectations. So Jay, if you reach out, but you have to reach out to us with solutions. If you've got some solutions and you have some ideas on what you think we can do for Marketing School or Neil Patel Digital or Single Grain, hit me up and then we'll see if we can do something. But if you actually make us think about what we need you to do, it's probably not going to happen because that's some cognitive load. And, we're just, We need the cognitive load taken off of us. So make it easy. So Sarash is asking how to start a career as a growth hacker. What skills are required? To me, growth hacker is still just marketing. So you're listening to this podcast. I would just recommend going to marketingschool.io and then searching for what resources you should look at as a beginning marketer, because that question is too loaded for us to cover in one simple question. There's a lot, which is why we do this entire podcast, because there's a lot. Neil, here's one for you. I get a lot of clicks, but no conversions on my website beside my competitors. Any advice?
Start doing testing. Start split testing. Start looking at some of your competitors' pages. See what they're doing to convert people, and use that as a starting ground. Typically, what's working for your competition usually will work for you.
Cool. Let's end it off with David Robbins and David Alexander. So I think this is a follow-up on yours, Neil. I have an African audience and they are really only on WhatsApp. How do I reach them?
I don't think Facebook's opened it where you can start hitting a lot of people on WhatsApp. WhatsApp marketing isn't open yet, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah. You're gonna just have to get people's phone numbers when they're going to your website, target that African audience with ads or content, and then collect their phone numbers and then start messaging them there. Because if they're on WhatsApp, that means there's a good chance that they also have a phone with internet. And I think David Alexander also added a follow-up. There's also addressable business residential geofencing, which draws precise digital boundaries around physical address using the plate lines. Thanks for sharing that, David. I myself don't use geofencing. I'll do geo-targeting. It makes sense what you're talking about based on addresses. Almost all our customers are national or global. I don't really deal with too many local businesses, so we don't really run too much into geofencing, if that makes sense.
Cool. And we'll cap it off here. So Anon, you want to get better at B2B sales? I would recommend reading saleshacker.com. There's a lot of good stuff there. And then final one here, do you prefer LinkedIn conversation ads or Facebook ads? Depends on what you're selling. Facebook ads generally, if you're doing consumer, LinkedIn ads, if you're doing B2B, it just depends on what you're selling. I love Twitter ads as an example. Those have been doing well for us. So anyway, that is it, everyone. Thank you so much. Neil, I'm going to stop this recording. Did you want to talk afterwards? Is that what you said?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go eat now. Goodbye, everyone. See you later. Have a good